Ho ho hello there and welcome back to the Mockember series, where we go through the advent and build something inspired by every day, and then right at the end we'll build something special using all of the parts. But before we begin with today's video, I have to apologise. About the condition I left C3PO in yesterday's video. I stole the element for the build from the chair that 3PO was sat on, and I have so many of these. I could have replaced it like for like, but I studded him down on all 4 studs. So let me fix that before we do anything. There you go. C3PO is only resting on the 2 studs that are up his bum. It's an interesting way of putting it, but it is what it is. And with that, let's take a look at the next day of the LEGO Star Wars Advent Calendar. Today we're looking for day numero uno, dos, tres, cinco, seas, numero seas, which is right next to 5. And we have, it's a Gonk. Gonk. I am so excited to be opening this up. This is the most interesting Gonk we've ever seen. And if you saw when the Advent Calendar was initially revealed way before we built it back in June, you'll know that I did build my own version of this that opened up to reveal a hidden secret. And that is something that's missing from the LEGO Star Wars Advent Calendar this year. Yesterday's chair could have fit a 2x2 container and it didn't. This Gonk could have fit a little sticker or maybe the tiniest compartment on the inside with some sort of hidden secret, maybe even a printed part that's not exclusive to the Advent Calendar. We know LEGO don't like those for the Star Wars Advent Calendars at least, but just a little something. It feels like there could have been a little something more, but I'm still nonetheless so excited to be building this and then getting into our mock build that of course is going to be Gonk related. This is one of the more how do I put it? This is one of the more interesting Gonks that we've seen from LEGO Star Wars full stop in the Advent Calendar or ever. And I'm trying to figure out the purpose of this Gonk. Gonks are batteries. Gonks are giant batteries. And this Gonk, besides being a giant battery, all right, we have some lights, some Christmassy lights. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's a fish tank on the back. Who are we to say? It's got a broom. Of course, because, you know, shoveling snow with a broom. I can see it. And then it's got a spoon. That throws me off. It's got this little crank over here, like a little spanner, a little frying pan stud on top. I don't understand this Gonk. It's got to be a reference. Maybe it's like the concept art of a Gonk. No, it doesn't seem to be any sort. I mean, I should have put Star Wars in first off to get rid of any of the Christmas Gonks, especially this time of year. But it doesn't seem to match up to any Gonk we've seen before. Wow, and we've reached the end of Google already. So maybe this is just a LEGO first build of a Gonk. Someone had to build a Gonk. They put all their pieces in. And you know what this reminds me of? That heart that I built at the LEGO Chalet earlier this year. This is a very creative Gonk, that's for sure. But what if we made it bigger? What if there was a Gonk, and I'm not talking about the 3D printed Gonks that you may have seen other people build. That feels too easy for a Mockember. We can't be just simply 3D printing anything bigger, at least not without adding a decal first. I want to build a Brickheadz Gonk. And the reason why I want it to be a Brickheadz Gonk specifically is because I was looking at some of the characters from Rebuild the Galaxy. We built Ezra, Sabine, and Hera in Brickheadz form before, and I realized that given the size of typical Brickheadz, I don't think these Gonks will be too big. And for Rebuild the Galaxy, we get perhaps the most famous Gonk of them all, Servo. So rather than making Servo a 6x6 Gonk and trying to cube them out, after building the Lego Minecraft Armadillo, I feel like the Gonk should be a similar size. So upscaling these characters into Brickheadz should be a simple 2-to-1 conversion, and then maybe Servo would be a more similar size to Viper, who is the love interest in Rebuild the Galaxy. Almost half the size at the minute, and I feel like Servo being twice as big in every dimension, maybe the Imperial probe droid won't need to be upscaled at all. We'll push Gonky to the... No, we can't call it Gonky. Gonky's the name of the one from the Bad Batch. Let me know what you'd name this Gonk down in the comments, and one of you will get naming privileges for yet another Lego build. The hardest part of upscaling this Gonk is going to be upscaling these clips at the bottom. We've upscaled them 6:1. That honestly was a lot easier than upscaling them 2:1, because these back elements are going to be 2x2 round plates, double stacked, but we're needing a bar out the front. Maybe it's not going to be as hard as I think, but it's still definitely not going to be easy. So we're leaving those pieces till last. We could keep them on the Gonk, and we're going to be building this Gonk top down, starting off with this modified element on top. That should be easy. The three elements that I'm going to be using to recreate this, we call them nipple tiles. There's got to be a better word for it, but it does kind of look like a little nipple tile. We're going to start off with a 2x2 rounded off plate. I don't think we'll be needing any more of these for the build, so you're going to need to grab one of those. If you're trying to build this at home, I won't be making instructions, because the best thing to do is watch this video once through to get all the parts, and then re-watch it to build along. I think that's the easiest way and is a lot more fun building with somebody else than trying to follow some paper instructions that have a much higher chance of either one of us missing a step somewhere in the middle and making this build impossible. To go on top of this, we want something that will funnel down to... Really, we want something that will funnel down to 2 bars. I don't think this is going to be possible, at least easily possible, trying to get 4 bars in the center. So we're modifying it just a little bit, and I've got this 2x2 jumper with the 1 stud in the middle. But you'll notice something so far that we're keeping throughout this build is that hole through the center. Just like on this stud, it doesn't go all the... Does it go all the way through? Huh. It does go all the way through. That's pure coincidental. I did not realize that. It goes all the way through. We're keeping that hole. So instead of trying to tile off the top or get any sort of bar inside, I'm going to be using 2 of these 1x1 studs with the hole that goes directly through. So pop 2 of those off. And there we have 1 to 2 upscale of the tile. Maybe it'd even look better if we just included 1 of them on top, but we've got to go for the accuracy. It is 2 plates tall, just about, so we've got 2 studs on top, and that is the start to Servo. The next plate we'll be upscaling is this 2x3, which is times every side by 2, 4x6. Do I have any 4x6s? I don't think it's going to matter, because parting this out would be a pain if we stacked a load of plates on top, and this is going to go for all of the other plates we use. I want to try and use the pieces from the set. So I'm thinking if we grab 4 of these as a base, just like that, then what we can do is lay 3 2x4s across the bottom. I think we're going to hide these underneath because I do want it to look like we've made it out of similar parts. Maybe what we should have done is added that to the top. I don't think that would have worked as well. We've got these 4 2x3s on top of the 3 2x4s. A lot of numbers there. Which side was it? It was the back left, wasn't it? That looks right. I'm going to have to check that, but I think it was the back left for the nozzle. And at the bottom of Servo, we've got another one of those plates. So we're going to grab another 3s and then place those on, you guessed it, 3 2x4s, just like so. Can we do this? Can we do? I don't think this is going to pick up in one. Maybe we can do this in 2 lots and then squish them all down onto a plate. And this is just a little prep work for the bottom of Servo. Same with this. Same with these 1x2s in sand blue. If we can do those sooner, then we don't have to worry about them later. But first we have that dark bluish grey 2x2, and I am so tempted just to get 8 2x2s, stack them. But I do want each of these parts to act as their own individual pieces. So I'm being pulled towards 2x4s. Just know that anything built in this video can be built in like 5 different ways very, very easily using common parts. So if you're not building it exactly how I am, as long as it looks as good by the end of the video, I think you've definitely done something right. The next element we will be building is that dark bluish grey 2x2. Have I already said this? Am I repeating myself already? Am I going crazy? And for that, we're going to need 4 2x4s. Place them over the top, underneath, then over the top to get that nice, secure, upscaled 2x2 plate. And you can see 2x2 fits into the top 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and it's twice as thick. So that is how we're going about our math. I want to make sure that we're crossing the 2x4s here. So one line's going horizontally, one line's going vertically. Scratch that, flip it, reverse it. One line's going vertically, one line's going horizontally, and that's just going to make them easier to break apart once this build is done. Even though we want to keep this for at least the period over Christmas, eventually all of my models do get broken down, except for the Slave 1. That's not going anywhere, but most of my models do get broken down, so it's always handy to keep in mind, is this mock going to be the easiest to break down, or is there an easier way to do it? And I'm going to double check if this 2x2 is a brick or a container. Oh, they've used a brick. Why haven't they gone with a container for Servo? They could have got a hidden little battery inside from the city space theme. That's the fun we're looking for in LEGO Star Wars sets. But to create that 2x2 brick, some of you guessed it, we're going to use the exact same parts as we did for the 2x2 plate and stack them up into an upscaled LEGO brick. And if you were going to finish off the top of this to make a 1x1 LEGO brick, may I recommend a 2x2 for simplicity, or if you want to push the boat out, use a jumper to get a 3x3 on top, which looks ever so more accurate and will be a bit closer to scale. The only problem with a 3x3 is there's no chance of creating a 3x3 hole in the bottom of the brick above it if you do want to connect them later. But we're going to push this to the side again. We're prepping this for a later build because between both the top plate and the bottom plate, either side of this brick, we've got 4 1x2 sand blue plates, which first off, shout out to sand blue, absolutely beautiful color. I think Servo does well connecting that sand blue to dark blue and gray. That's not a color combination my mind particularly jumps to, especially with gray. Dark blue and a sand blue work so well together. But for each of these sand blue parts, I've already prepared the pieces. We're going to need 4 1x2 plates, 3 and 4, and 2 1x4 plates. This is just for support underneath, handy keeping some of those bigger plates to hand. You're going to want to honestly get down all your sand blue plates. These aren't the most common color. This is probably the least common color I have in a drawer. Any part that has less pieces than this goes in a Ziploc bag, and that gets put away in the overspill. So there's one upscaled 1x2 element, and I haven't made any of these earlier. These are all built straight for the camera. So you get to see just how many times some of these parts would have to be built. Imagine if we were building this upscaled to like 10 times. Let's blow it out of proportion. Let's go 10 times, because this character is only, what, 3 centimeters? Looks to be about 3 centimeters tall. That giant one you see in Fortnite that we unlocked back in May on the Star Wars Season Pass is 30 meters tall. If we were building that one and were life-size in Lego bricks, all of those Lego bricks would add up to 1,000 times the height of Servo. So take a look at your Servo right now and imagine 1,000 Servos standing on top of each other. Not only is that not possible because, well, the feet don't clip down properly, so like 5 Servos on top would probably just topple over themselves, but 1,000 of these guys top to bottom, there's not enough room. I'd need some sort of permits from NASA to be building Lego that high. 2 of these are for the top of the brick, 2 of these are for the underneath. Not much we can do about the 1x2s on the bricks there, but we can lay these the opposite way, and then 2 more plates underneath, and we're ready to put the bottom on. Or almost ready, because we're just missing out on the front. We've got, that brick's going to be the hardest one to build, but at least we already know what we're going to do about that snot brick. I could not have planned this build better. On the front of Servo, we have both types of snot bricks. So even though snot bricks do vary in size, a lot of the snot bricks can be broken down to either these two, the recessed stud and the non-recessed stud of a snot brick, which both also connect. We'll take a look at that in a second, see if we can connect. I don't think we'll be able to connect our upscaled versions, but the only other snot brick I think could be useful for building is the 2-pleat tool snot brick. So I'll have to find another build to upscale with that in it in the future. Otherwise, we're pretty much covered with these two. I think the first one we'll start off with is the one on the left. The one on the left is the funner one. Let's get to building that. All the snot bricks are going to be built with this element, which itself can be built a few different ways. You can get those rounded off ones on the bottom of a 1x2, or 2 separate 1x1s, or even if you don't own this color in, say, I don't know, we'll go with dark bluish gray maybe. What you can do is use 2 of the single ones together and just make sure you're securing them with a plate. So for the recessed stud snot brick, all we're going to need is, I believe, these elements here. The snot bricks go right on the back, pointing inwards of this 2x2 with the flat side, and then we build out the snot brick so that we've still got that little ledge, which is identical to how we've got it in the build. It shouldn't be identical though, should it? It shouldn't be identical. We need it to be one full stud in. So this snot brick isn't going to work. It's a good thing I caught that on camera because it's an important part of mock building. Because Mockember this month is all about mocks, I just want to take a second to say, if you get to a part in a mock build and you realize that you need to switch it up, don't panic. The best thing to do is just to grab all the bricks you can that you think might work, and just like paint, just throw it at the wall. Whichever one sticks is the one you end up going with. And for Servo, the one that I think will stick is a bracket. Doesn't have to be the bottom bracket, can be the top bracket like we used on yesterday's build. And what this is going to do is push our studs not on top, and in fact on the side of the snot brick, which is what snot stands for, half a plate further out. And now we get the full plate recession. Fill up the back of this with 4 plates tall of elements. I've just used 4 1x2 plates. It fills the gap, it works, and like I say, you can get the top bracket on top with this. Maybe even switch it out for a brick that'll be a bit more efficient. And now we've got one of our snot bricks. To be completely honest, I know exactly what I'm going to do for the details on the front, or at least for that printed tile, but I want to finish this column first and then we can loop back round to it. Because for the other snot brick is similar to what I was saying earlier about using this snot element. I guess we've got the 4 studs on the front for all of these, but we've got that on the front for the snot brick. Between the stud and the bottom of the brick is half a plate's gap. So here we've got that full 2x2 plate filling in the bottom of the element. And then on the back, similar to the recessed snot brick, maybe we put 2 plates down first and then we add a brick just to fill in that gap. And here we've got the 2 different snot bricks for the top, but we're gonna need another brick underneath them. Because this is all Lego and we're building the giant Lego with even smaller Lego bricks, we can readily put them in. But for the bottom, I've actually spent some time thinking about this because I can't remember what mock it was, but we have needed that element before, and there's a few different ways you can go about building it, none of which so far have worked as good as I like. I think it might have been for the upscaled Grogu minifigure that we may have needed them. You could use a snot brick with, or actually a bracket would work better, just like this brick with the grills, which isn't half bad, but something about the studs on the inside definitely throws me off. And another build you could work with is the snot bricks. You could try and get some door rails in the middle. I don't have any in sand blue. It might not be a color that Lego make yet, but I'm still not a fan of the enlarged gap between each of the elements. It feels too exaggerated compared to the waviness of the Lego brick. To get an upscaled version of this brick, the only element we could use was of course a lot more of the exact same brick. So here we have a stack of 8 of those bricks, and I'm just gonna back and forth. Wow, the camera does not like that. It's kind of like on GTA when you go for any of the speed ramps, taking a stack, facing them to the wall, and then facing them outwards. Look at that. You're not going to be able to recreate that trippy design with any other Lego bricks. And then we can place our giant 4x6, our upscale 2x3 plate on top. And now it's starting to look like an absolute Gonk droid. It's looking like a daddy servo. There are a few ways you can go about recreating that 1x2 rounded off plate underneath servo, which is going to be a 2x4 rounded off plate. Something I'm very surprised to see with all the 1x2s, 1x3s, 1x4s, no doubt there'll be 1x5s soon, that they haven't created, Lego haven't made a 2x4 rounded plate in Lego, but they've come close quite a few times. This is just a few, literally 4 of the rounded elements that have the same curve we're going to need to use to represent the 1x2 upscaled rounded plate. And there's a few different ways we can equip these. We've got the quarter tiles on top of the round 2x2s, and then maybe getting something like a squared off plate in the middle will give us the illusion of this all being one part. And I'm now realizing the only element that doesn't hold on its own is this blue brick. So I do kind of want to go back and change that. But we've also got elements like this 2x3 element and a jumper that will fit in the bottom. I don't have any of these in dark bluish grey, so this isn't what we're going to be using, but there are so many different ways that you can get this done. Let's just hope that I have a few more of these quarter tile 1x1s, because looking at my bag, I just can't see any. Well, after searching through it for quite a few minutes now, I have discovered that I don't own any more dark bluish grey. I don't know what set I would have got 3 from. It must have been a set that came with 2 and gave me 1 as a spare. What I'm going to do is cover that up with a mystery colour, and as long as I hold it at the right angle, you're going to have no idea anything is any different than it should be. In fact, let's get this clip straight on, and there you go, no idea. Now for the feet. The hardest part we've got left, I'm thinking definitely a rounded off 2x2 plate on top and possibly even a bracket underneath. But the hardest part is keeping the clips for the bar elements out to the side. Because the feet are side by side on Gonky here, on name pending in the comments, we can get a 4-length bar straight through both of these feet. But the clips being on the side is the hardest part, because right now I'm not sure whatsoever of any elements that could make it look how I envision. We've got a load of common clip elements. These clips aren't at the edge, so they're gonna have like 2 toes in the middle. Same if we try and use 2 of those. And there is one of these that has the clip in the middle of the 2 studs. We could try and squeeze that between the feet and connect them all up, but I would prefer these being separate elements. So that 4 bar, maybe we can use some 2-length bars, but even that has a little bump in the middle. We've also got this element, which has only the 2 ends, but they're not right at the end. They're slightly inwards. I think our best bet is squeezing 2 of these. The bar isn't any bigger, but at least if the plate is, the feet will look slightly bigger than they do on the original. We're going to need 2 2x2 plates, 2 1x2 plates, and these 2 bar elements, clipping them on just like so. I think this is the closest we can get without overcomplicating it and need to scaling up any further than we are already. Remember, this is only a brickheads, so we don't want to use too many expensive elements. Want to keep this fairly cheap, as do Lego. And now the only details missing are from the very front of the face. I don't think we're even going to need to look at Servo for this, because I know exactly what I want to do. We'll start off with the green eye on the left hand side, just by placing a green plate there. And then we have the option of using some of the original elements, kind of like we did with the body of Servo here. Just keep stacking on studs, get that glow, because we don't have a tile of the similar nature. That doesn't look half bad. Or if we want a cleaner look, we can sacrifice the translucency for a jumper, which again, actually doesn't look bad at all. That looks pretty close to the same shade of green, and I'm kind of wanting to stick with that. But I also do like the translucency of the laser being just 4 studs put together. It's like building a lightsaber with just a ton of lightsaber elements. I think I'm going to stick with this. For the 1x1 printed plate, we've got another element that's going to be upscaled to I say another element. We haven't had a 1x1 before. I guess we've got the 1x1 on top, but this has a print on it. We're not cheating. We're not using decals. You know I love them here on the channel. We've got a 2x2 plate, and rather than decals, I'm trying to get the same detail across with a few tiles. So I'm not going to reveal them all at once. We're going to start at the top and work our way down. We've got one little red dot. I don't even know if you can see that. We've got one little red dot that I'm representing with a tile as big as the original printed element. That's going to go on the top left. And continuing our way along, we've got a few grey buttons. I think that's the easiest choice. That's going to be a grey tile just on top. Underneath, we have a light blue, something that's lit up. And because this isn't a translucent tile, this is just a light bluish grey tile, we have the regular red, regular blue. But because I've switched the button or the light at the top to translucent red, I've also got a translucent light blue tile. Make it look like it's interactive. Star Wars has a lot of lights on their panels. We could probably even feed them through. And then we've got some grey buttons underneath. And I do want to continue some of that light bluish grey rather than using a silvery one, making it look completely different. And this is sat just into the head of Servo, as is this tiny one on the regular Servo. It's half the way recessed into the head of Servo as we've continued on our brick heads, and that finishes off our brick heads mock. Look at Servo! Look at Servo, and if we bring back out Viper, they should be a lot closer to scale, almost misplaced Viper, than they were before. Almost the same height. There's like a brick in it, but I think this I'm not sure if this is a better size. I think Viper was a bit more intimidating. Should we come back and upscale Viper to a brickhead? If so, let me know by dropping a like on this video. And if you are trying to build Servo, don't forget to share your images over in the community alongside any other Advent builds you may be building yourself. And we'll be taking a look at them at the end of the month when I come back to streaming. I absolutely love this brickheads. Recently, I've had a thing for brickheads. I never really liked them, but they're starting to grow on me. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, may the bricks be with you, always.